I don't even want to think about it.
With Resident Evil 4 Remake on the horizon, I thought that it would be interesting to go back and check out one of my favorite moments from Resident Evil 3 Remake. You know, the whole game itself, obviously isn't as good as Resident Evil 2 Remake, but it still has its moments. And I definitely think that there was one creature in particular, one moment in particular, one area in particular, that if they had continued and built off of it, would have been really interesting. And that is the Jane Demos, which is essentially a creature that primarily resides in the substation, which is where you have to go and activate the generators so that you can use the trains. And if you look very closely at this particular BOW, you can actually see a lot of detail on it. But they only ever used it once, which makes me wonder why, they went through the trouble at the whole development process of creating and having concept art of this creature, and then having people come in and create the 3D model for it and adding all these amazing details, and for it only to be used once in the entire game. It's just really bizarre to me, considering how short RE3 Remake is already. It's just really fascinating to me that they only ever used it once. I mean, just look at the atmosphere. The atmosphere, the visuals, the music, the sound design. Out of every other moment in this game, this was definitely my favorite moment. And yeah, they only ever used these creatures once, which is just really bizarre to me, I definitely feel like this, if they had continued building off of this, even when you were playing as Carlos in the RCPD, or not even RCPD, but let's say when you play as Carlos in the hospital area, they could have had these creatures in the courtyard. They could have had these creatures break in and have their own areas that they sort of reside in, that they've taken over and infested. But nope, they only utilized it for one particular area, and that's at the substation, which it's a great first impression, and it's very dark, eerie, atmospheric. You can see how they've just basically taken over everything. There's gunk and infestation everywhere. They're coming out of the walls and everything as well. And yeah, it's just fascinating to me that they did all this work and created these creatures, these 3D models for these creatures, and then they only utilized them once. It feels like a missed opportunity.
Done. Time to get the hell out of here.
No other part of this game has this much atmosphere in it. In all honesty, no other part of RE3 Remake has this very sort of eerie atmosphere, and really good music as well. It perfectly fits your current situation, Jill Valentine's current situation in this. No other part of this game has that. Even when you're in the Umbrella Research Facility, it just doesn't have a similar feel to this. Jill is completely alone in here. Yeah, she may be experienced with BOWs from the Spencer Mansion incident, but this is on a whole other level of she's all alone. you know? And another thing I need to kind of put emphasis on is, so for example, after you've destroyed that giant like egg sac that they've sort of come from, the drain demos are still around, and I'll show you in just a second. They still stick around afterwards. They are not completely gone. They could very much have scurried away to other parts of Raccoon City as well, maybe even going deep into the sewers if they wanted to. It would have been so much more like fascinating to see them in other areas of Raccoon City.
Carlos, it's Jill. I've restored power to the subway.
Nice going. Next up is the traffic control system. It should be in the subway company's offices. Unfortunately, all I can tell you is that it's somewhere in the area.
You don't even know what building? That's helpful.
Thanks, partner. I try.
Not your partner.
And I understand the development for RE3 Remake was around 3 years, so they were developing it around the same time that RE2 Remake was being made. And so, you know, this is all the concept art that was created for it, just showcasing more Raccoon City, the Raccoon City hospital, the Nest 2 research facility as well. And here is concept art of the gas station, along with some artwork of what looks to be some people who have been webbed out by, I'm assuming, the Drain Demos. It's a pretty horrifying image, pretty cool. And here is the 3D model of the Drain Demos that you've just seen from the gameplay. And yeah, just look at the level of detail on this creature. I genuinely wish we could have seen more of it. Definitely in like the hospital area as well, or maybe even in the sewer areas when you're escaping from Nemesis. And another thing, if you look very closely here, you can kind of see in the mouth it has like human-like teeth. And yeah, that was a detail that I never noticed before, obviously, until I decided to check it in the viewer model, or the model viewer. But yeah, it's like, look at that level of detail. Just look at that. Absolutely terrifying. It's amazing. But yeah, also another key feature for the model viewer specifically is in RE2 Remake you were able to play like the animations for the characters and for like the creatures and the enemy types and all that. I really wish we could have gotten that feature in this game as well, but they didn't add that. You know, I would love to have been able to see it, but hey, you guys saw the gameplay, and you know, we've all seen it, we all know. So yeah, you know, the way that it moves, the way that it reacts, the way its behavior and everything as well is really interesting. It's very sort of sporadic, very like, I guess, calculated in a way. It definitely reminds me of the Chimera. I believe it may be partly sort of inspired by the Chimera from the first Resident Evil game, RE1 Remake, I guess you could say. But yeah, just look at that. Look at the level of detail. But yeah, that's what I wanted to touch upon today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.